Hello and welcome to From the Dressing Room. My name is Kelley Moody and I'm representing Greer's OC. Joining me are Donna, Garner, and Raymond Bokhour from Once the Musical, which is a fantastic show. I highly recommend it. I just got to see it last night and boy, was it great. Both of you were absolutely awesome. So thank you for being here today. We're going to start off with some questions right away, but first off, Once is just a fascinating story that brings together the Irish and the Czech cultures in Dublin. So this is probably a question for you mostly, Donna, because it's one thing to play an immigrant, but to also play an immigrant in a foreign country. What was that like for you?
Because I'm a Canadian in the U.S. playing a Czech woman? This is what you're talking about.
Dublin.
In Dublin,
Right.
Yes. Wow, this
Quite
is
the combo.
no kidding. Oh, it's great. I mean, I love playing different characters, and I love different accents. I love singing in different languages. I have my whole life, so I mean, this is just great. And she's a great character.
She really is. It was very fun. And then let's talk a little bit about the set. The set is really interesting to me. For those of you that haven't seen it, it's very solitary, but it's also very versatile. And those mirrors have really stuck out to me. And basically, if you're an audience member, you're looking at a character in the middle of the stage, but you're also seeing them from multiple different angles. Is there any symbolism behind those mirrors that we should know about?
Wow.
You know, there probably is, but I find that kind of thing is best left to the audience to decide for themselves how it makes them feel and what it makes them think about. So there's some practical considerations. I think the show was born and first developed and performed in a bar. They developed it in rehearsal rooms, and then they moved and performed it in a bar in Boston, which may have had a big, large mirror in the back. So that, I think, gave our designers some ideas, and I hope I'm right about that. But it's brilliantly executed. There's a lot of gorgeous mirrors, and they create a lot of shadows and reflections, obviously, and so I think everybody can decide how they feel about that for themselves.
It gives quite the new angle, pardon the pun, for the audience to be able to see it in all that different ways with those mirrors. But my next question, I love about this show that there's technically no orchestra. Well, kind of, not really. Each of you is playing an instrument, and you're also playing your characters at the same time, which is amazing to watch, very multi-talented. But I'm curious, did everyone already know how to play their instruments prior to being cast for the role, or did anyone have to pick it up and learn it for the first time?
Well, I would say that almost all of us had to pick up a new instrument. I mean, we were all musicians. We were all proficient on a specific instrument, but I think pretty much everybody had to learn a new instrument. I learned accordion in 8 days for my first audition. I was already a professional pianist, so it wasn't that much of a stretch, but I certainly had to work hard on the left hand. Ray, you want to speak to this?
I played guitar my whole life, and a little bit of cello, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but I had never played the mandolin before, so just like you, a week before my audition, I went out and rented one and taught myself a song and auditioned on that. I also auditioned playing the guitar so they could see, okay, he's proficient, he'll have time to catch up and learn what he needs to learn on the mandolin.
I did the same thing. I made sure I got to play the piano that day, too.
Yeah, that's right. And I think there's a few people, especially our very talented understudies who spend a lot of time backstage. One of them has to, at least one of them has to go on for multiple characters, so they'll play not only all the instruments that character plays, but all the instruments this character plays. So they're playing cello. There's one guy who plays cello and bass and drums and guitar and like ukulele and banjo,
6, 7,
like
8
everything.
instruments.
And speaking of this person, did they know all those instruments prior to, or did they pick up some of those in the process?
Yep. They picked up some of them as well.
That is amazing. If you see the show, it's incredible the talent these people have. So to say that you guys picked up that quickly is quite impressive. Going off of that, when you think about acting and singing and dancing, and now you're throwing an instrument on top of that, is that challenging, being on stage and now throwing in that fourth factor? It definitely brings a lot of passion to these characters for sure, and you can see that as an audience member, but is that challenging as well?
For sure. Absolutely, it's challenging. I mean, for myself, I've always been a decent mover, but it always takes me a little while to pick up choreography. And but I feel like, there's a saying where if you're speaking your lines, and when you become so excited about what you're feeling, then you break into song, and then if you go even one step further with that, then you have to move, you have to dance. So I think that is sort of how we feel about what we're doing in the show.
Yeah, I would say that it was challenging. It's also surprisingly connected. what you put into playing an instrument or what you put into speaking your lines to a fellow character is somewhat similar, surprisingly similar, and I think we bring kind of musicians, maybe improvisatory energy to this whole process, which the director John Tiffany and the whole creative crew was really great at finding those lines where or the kind of the line between the acting and the music. It's all very much drawn together, and they ride that line like a surfboard. It's really fun to do.
That's so great. Well, thank you both so much for joining me, and thank you for last night. The show was fantastic. I appreciate it a lot. Of course. Thank you for having me. Not that you had too much of a choice in the matter, but I appreciate it nonetheless. And for all of you out there, again, I really do encourage you to see this show. Thank you for joining us for this episode from the dressing room, and we look forward to having you next time. My name's Kelley Moody, Greer's OC.